All right, so here's a few things. We got about 10 minutes. I see these all over the place, and I had to go through them a lot when we visited China a few times. They take your temperature before you enter a building or an elevator or a movie theater or something. And this is pretty much garbage. And I'm glad to see Anthony Fauci, one of the great guys that speaks science. And I think he is wonderful for security experts to look at Anthony Fauci, because he has exactly the same job that all of us have, which is to tell powerful people something they do not want to hear. You not only have to speak the truth, but you have to figure out how to be political about it and try to avoid insulting people too much. Anyway, so here he talks about the point of these things is taking your temperature before you get in. There were two huge problems. The first thing is these handheld temperature scans on your forehead are extremely inaccurate. It's just getting a temperature not from inside your body where it's really a constant, but outside where it changes. So Fauci talks about how when he's out in the hot, it's 103. When he's in a cold room, it's 93. It doesn't mean anything. And the other thing, of course, which is the huge problem with the new coronavirus, is that you can be infected and spreading it and have no symptoms, including no fever. And that's what makes it spread so fast, because people don't know they're sick at all and they're spreading it. And this thing does not detect that. So I said, this is completely pointless. However, this is the thing called security theater, which is a big thing. TSA is arguably the same thing, where they supposedly stop you from putting guns in your luggage. Studies show that anybody that wants to sneak things through can easily sneak it through. The only purpose of that is to calm people down by tricking them into thinking you've done something to protect them. That's security theater. Anyway, supposedly the FDA has approved a new test that is cheaper and doesn't require any special equipment, either for collecting a sample or for processing a sample. So hopefully this will become available soon, because the tests in America are terrible. They cost too much, they're too slow, they're not available. So we need definitely a faster, cheaper test. So hopefully that'll work. And let's see there. So this I thought is wonderful. Vox News is very, very good. Ezra Klein especially. His podcast is wonderful. His articles are wonderful. He really thinks this stuff through. And he explained, it's very strange. The Republicans have really perfected campaigning and doing political stunts to get people to cheer for them, but they just don't govern at all, especially under Trump. And now it is just amazing. The whole world is amazed at watching America just do absolutely nothing about the coronavirus. And now we're not even going to do anything about all the people that can't pay their rent and aren't getting any money from the government. And the Republicans are just going home. They aren't even going to come back. They couldn't care less. They're not going to do anything. And he asked them about this and said, what's up with you guys? Don't you want to win the election? Isn't everybody going to hate you for doing absolutely nothing? And they explain it. They have given up. They can't get anything done under Trump. He contradicts himself. He changes his mind about everything. If you start any program, he will just change it halfway through. So there's no point even trying to get anything done with Trump in charge. And yet the other Republicans have been waiting for the base to turn against him, and they won't. 90% of the base still loves Trump, so they can't say a word against him. So they just have to give up and let him do this. There's really no point. If they oppose Trump, they will just get thrown out by their own voters. And if they go along with Trump, they can't get anything done. So they just have to throw up their hands and let the country sink, which is what they're doing. And there's more talking about this. So certainly what we're doing is just pretending that there is no virus and we can lie about it, which is just amazing. Anyway, it's very interesting to read. And a lot of people are pretty much, the Republicans have written off the next 4 years. They know Biden's going to win. And they're planning for 2024. And they are naturally concerned because the Republicans might move even further from reality in 2024 with the Tea Party and the QAnon movement and such. But they're in complete chaos. And this is something I heard a wonderful analysis of this. Like I said, the reason Trump won is because the Republican Party had moved very far from their base. So they promised the base stuff, and what the leaders in power really wanted to do is just give tax breaks to rich people so they could get kickbacks in the form of campaign contributions. And there was a huge disparity between what they said and what they did, and Trump exploited that. He said, we're going to have the little people and the Republicans rebel and force the party to actually do what they want. And then he didn't do that, but somehow he's continued to make people feel like he's doing that. And anyway, it's very interesting. The Republican Party is sort of falling apart, but they're currently in power and they might win again. We'll see what happens of it all. But it is puzzling the whole world how we can be the richest and most powerful nation in the world and we cannot solve the simplest thing that every other nation has solved, even third world nations, because our government is just so completely ineffective. Anyway, colleges, Scott Galloway's been saying this for a long time, colleges are just lying when they say they're going to have face-to-face classes. City College did the right thing. This class is not face-to-face because you can't do it in the age of the coronavirus. All the other colleges claimed they were going to be face-to-face until they could collect the tuition money from the parents, and now they're reversing that. And North Carolina tried it, but of course, as soon as you have classes, you're going to have a ton of cases spreading because it's all over the place. So who are you fooling? You can't have a classroom full of students and professors. Somebody in there is going to be sick. It's going to start spreading. You'll just have to close again. So they're just closing again. And all right, I think I'll skip. In Britain, they have exams that really matter much more than American exams. You know, as you probably know, you can get a bad grade in high school and it doesn't really matter. But in Britain, these exams really matter. And because they really matter, they actually try to normalize the colleges. So you'll go to college, take this all important exam, and then they will compare your college to other colleges. And if your college seems to give more A's, they'll lower your grade to compensate. So this time they used an algorithm that lowered people's grades by like 3 grade levels. So they thought they were getting an A. And a few weeks after the exam, they say, no, we decided to call that a D. And they really are upset. This is really going to ruin their life. So now they're trying to change the normalization. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. But that would be pretty annoying. And so this is one which you're talking a lot more in the Saturday class, which is much more explicitly about politics. But here's Trump reporting more Russian disinformation. He does a lot of this. Trump is effectively a Russian agent. And so are a lot of Republicans. They take information that is designed by Russians attacking us as a lie to affect us, and the Republicans amplify it in Congress and on Twitter and in speeches because it's successful. The Russians are basically a propaganda team helping write messages for him to spread. And the fact that everybody knows he's doing it doesn't matter, which is an interesting issue and important in the world of social engineering. So anyway, here's Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden is the guy that leaked a bunch of secret information exposing how our government was spying on us, and he fled to Russia, and his lawyer still says, for God's sake, please don't come back because I won't be able to defend you, because he absolutely was under contract to not disclose this stuff, and he disclosed it. But now Trump is talking about pardoning him, which Trump was one of the early people saying they should just execute him, but he's changed his mind. Now he's always on the Russian side of everything. So anyway, if Trump pardons him, he can come back. And a lot of people would like to see that because they see him as a heroic whistleblower. It would be yet another bizarre thing if Trump pardoned him and he came back. He's talking about it. He hasn't done it yet. Hydroxychloroquine was the first miracle cure that Trump pushed for no apparent reason. Nobody ever understood why he thought it would work, why he pushed it when it was very clear it didn't work. But now he's got another one. This one, at least we know what's going on. It's from the oleander, which is a plant. I think my mom had these in the garden, but they've decided somebody has a company. He makes My Pillows, some kind of pillows, and now he manufactures this stuff, and now he is going to be Trump's new doctor pushing the thing he sells. So this is clearly just basically bribery. Anyway, so we'll see what this does. Hopefully it's less harmful than the last one. But of course, this is not the way to do science. But the Republicans have never been about science for my whole lifetime. They just completely deny air pollution, global warming, cigarettes being bad for you for a long time, and anything else inconvenient. Anyway, so we're 10 minutes after. We're up to the official time to start the class. So let's talk about this particular class you're taking right now. And let's see, I got 20 people. Okay. So I've got you on mute. If you want to ask a question or something, just send it in the text chat. You could unmute yourself, but it usually works better to just use the text chat during the lecture. Let me open up the chat so I'll see it. There we are. So hopefully I'll see if people have things to ask about. So here we are. This is CNIT 152. This is incident response. And today I'm going to summarize what this class will cover and the history that led to this field. This is a brand new field. It has only existed essentially for about the last 8 years. And it was invented primarily by the company Mandiant. Mandiant invented modern incident response. They wrote this book. It is excellent. I'm very pleased with it. There was an earlier field called computer forensics, which is related, but incident response is the specific application of computer forensics to respond to attacks in progress, primarily attacks from hostile nation states, which is why you'll hear me talk about politics so much. The computer security at this level is very closely tied to the military and to politics. What you're worried about here is not ordinary punk hackers that just want to like steal credit card numbers and run away. You're worried more about nation states. Although sometimes they do steal credit card numbers, they usually have much more advanced techniques and goals. So you need to get this book, and there will be quizzes every week, and there's discussion board on which you should be making posts every week, and there are hands-on projects you have to do. So you'll see all those things here in the schedule. Nothing's due the first week. There are some items due next week, but this asterisk means you won't actually have any points lost for being late until after the ad period's over. So people who are still adding the course aren't already late. But if you want to stay on top of things, you should have these things due by next week. And the quizzes and discussion you put in the Canvas system that comes with City College. Yeah, if anybody wants to add, you should be able to add. And I don't think you need a ad code or anything. I think you just need to make an ad request, and I will approve them all in the system. I've tried to do it earlier, but they usually won't let me do it until the class meets. So after this class, I should be able to approve everybody waiting to get in. But I think right now it's not even full, so you can just add it right away. I don't even think I need to approve it, but if I do, then I will. Good. Anyway, so these quizzes and discussions go right in Canvas, which you'll find at the City College website. If you go here, right here is Canvas. That is our online course system. So if you go in there, oh, that's what I need, some kind of garbage. How about ignoring me? For crying out loud. All right, well, they're going to lock me out of the stinking thing right now. Anyway, that's where it is. And in there, you'll find a place to put your discussions and quizzes, and also where you can submit the projects. And I'll talk more about the projects later. The instructions are on my website. So here's the grading policy. There's quizzes, projects, discussion. This is out of date. I need to add the discussion. But anyway, you got a final exam and all these things that add some points, and then 90%'s an A and 80%'s a B, and so on. So I'll update this later to add some more points for the discussion board. Yes. I know there are some, I've seen the discussion, there's some people talking about the, I don't think there are any ad codes. Somebody's asking for an ad code. I don't think we've used those in years. You just add in the online system, I think. Anyway, yes, these are good questions. If you want to take this course and you're not a City College student, then you won't be able to use the City College Canvas server. I will copy the course to another Canvas server by next week, and I'll have the link up so you can get onto the Canvas server and get the quizzes and a place to put in the projects. I'm glad you bring that up. Good, because I do let everybody take the course even if they're not an official student. Of course, you won't get official credit, but other than that, I treat you the same. And all right. Anyway, so let me talk about the technical topics here, and we will get back to the slides of the first lecture. And by the way, if you want any of the slides or anything, everything's on this page, the 152 page here. So here are the lectures, and I just updated this one an hour ago, and I'm going to start by talking about that. So here is this is all basically the first chapter of your book, and I think it's very interesting. That's why I'm doing this. I was very happy to get this book and update my forensics class and turn it into this class. So an event is anything that happens on your network, like equipment breaks or something. These are IT events that might require an IT support or repair, but it's not a security incident unless it violates your security policy. This is malware on a system. Somebody steals confidential data. Somebody manages to escalate to a higher privilege than they should have. You know, something bad happens that actually is hurting the security of your network. So now, once you have an incident, then you have to have incident response. It's like a fire alarm goes off. Now you have to do something about it. You have to run around and see if there's a fire and get a fire extinguisher and such. So you have to first decide if there's really an incident or if it was just a harmless event or a less important event. Then you have to detect the incident to know it's there, and you have to contain it. Containment means stop it from getting worse. If there's something like malware, you want to stop it from spreading to more systems. Then you determine the scope. It might be just one computer that's been infected. It might be already spreading through a large portion of your network. It might have already affected your customers, your employees, your business partners, your public-facing systems. So it's now affecting your reputation and hitting the news. You know, it could be all over the place. So the first thing is decide how big is the problem. Then you determine the actual facts, and you now try to decide how to contain and deal with the incident with the minimum damage to your business. So you want to restore normal operations. You want to manage the public response. If it is a big thing that has hit the press or affected your customers or require you to make a legal disclosure, like someone stole personally identifiable information and now the law requires you to officially warn people and announce that this has happened, then you have a public relations and legal issues. And then you have to, after you take care of the immediate incident in all these ways, then you have to educate your management about what happened and then have some way to improve your security posture so this won't happen again. That whole thing is called incident response. So you have incident response teams. You have an investigation team. These are like the detectives in cop shows. These are the people that analyze machines and interview people and perform tests and find out what has happened. And then you have a remediation team that kicks out the attacker and improves the security posture to stop the attack and prevent future attacks. And then you have public relations people talking to the press, talking to overseeing government agencies and so on. One big issue is live response. In the old days, maybe 15 years ago or more, we had computer forensics was primarily thinking about a crime, where you would go to a crime scene and there would be a computer there. It was involved in the crime scene and you just wanted to get the evidence off that computer. And the old rule was you pull out the plug, kill the power, take out the hard drive and image it. That's what computer forensics consisted of, because only the files on the hard drive have a creation date and an owner. And that's what you considered to be proof of who did what. And anything in memory was considered useless because it didn't have a creation date and an owner, and you didn't really know who had done what there. But in incident response, the most important information is usually in the memory. You usually don't care about files and history. What you care about is what is happening right now. What malicious processes are running, what data is being stolen, how is it spreading to other machines over my network, and that's all in the memory. So that's called a live response, where you analyze the running memory contents of a running machine. And that is the main thing you do in modern incident response, although you sometimes do analyze hard drive images as well. So here are some cases, and Mandiant, as I say, pretty much invented this field, and they're the #1. So they're like the people you call when you have a computer disaster. Like when you have an airplane crash, the NT, National Safety Board or something, comes in with these experts that put together all the pieces and collect all the bodies and figure out what happened and find the black box. That's what Mandiant does. They swoop in and save you. You pay them a pile of money, I'm sure, and they send in a team to save you when you got hacked. If you're a big corporation. And so these cases are, I think, famous cases. I'm pretty sure this first one is Target. Target was one of the really major cases, and they don't give the name of the company here, but they describe the situation, and it sure sounds like the Target hack to me. Target was one of the really big credit card theft cases. They infected Target's point of sale machines and they stole the credit card numbers out of RAM for months and got millions of them. And it was one of the biggest computer security breaches of all time. So here was the initial compromise. A web server had a SQL injection vulnerability, which is a very common problem. You learn about it in our pen testing classes and so on. About 11% of all networks have this vulnerability, and it gives you the ability to run some extra unusual commands on a server. So they were able to infect the SQL server, and they were able to use the XP command shell, SQL command, to get a normal command line. So now they can execute Windows command line commands on the server. So then they downloaded malware and ran it on the server. So now they got control of one server. Now here you see the network, and let me make this smaller so I can point with the mouse. All right, so here's the internet, the attacker's coming in. The SQL injection comes through the web page onto the database server, and they can now execute code on the database server. So they install malware on the server so they can use this directly. Although the commands they're sending are in fact passing through the web server, they pass through transparently once you have a good rootkit or otherwise tool running on the server. So now they want to get further into the department, because into the internal environment, this is a standard security measure. You have a multi-layered defense. You have some firewall going to your public properties like the web server and the public database server that doesn't contain any high security data. And then you have another firewall leading to the internal network where you would have sensitive things like credit card numbers. So because you know that these things that are directly exposed to the internet are probably going to get hacked. So you don't put sensitive data on them, and you have another layer of defense. But they found that this server could execute some SQL commands on an internal database server. So now they were able to get some ability to control an internal device, and that got them effectively past this firewall. Now they did recon. Once you've done this, you now have some visibility into the protected corporate network. Now you try scanning and running tools to find out what's going on inside the internal corporate network. And again, they put a backdoor on so they could get more direct control of those machines. They found an administrator account, password hash on one of the machines, and they were able to crack it. Now they were able to install malware on almost every system they could touch because of a fundamental problem, which was also very common and has only recently been addressed, which is when you install corporate machines, you pretty much have one ghost image and you make them all exact clones. So typically they all have exactly the same administrator password. So that administrator password hash is on almost every system. And once you find it, you can use it everywhere. There is a better solution for that called Swarm, which is gaining in popularity, but that's relatively new, and this attack occurred before that was in common use. So once they did that, they now had the ability to run more code and they could move further. So now I just want to talk about the general structure here. So many companies have been hacked. People have tried to make this into a more scientific, organized system, and there are several stages of this. One of them that got a lot of attention was the Lockheed Martin kill chain. The Lockheed Martin kill chain, as you can imagine, from the military contractor Lockheed Martin, and they just tried to organize the steps of someone attacking you. So there's reconnaissance where they find information about your company, then they weaponize some attack they're going to use against you, then they deliver it somehow with something like an email attachment, then they exploit your systems, install malware. Now they put a machine under persistent control from a command and control server, and then they perform their actions doing bad things to your company. This was an early attempt to make a scientific step-by-step categorization of the steps when people attack you. A much more modern one, which was one we're going to use quite a bit in the later projects in this course, is the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And this is from people that came from MIT, and this is considered very good. It's just a more detailed version of the same thing. They gain some initial access into your system, they gain some way to execute code, then they gain some way to persist. So that even when you reboot the machine, they will maintain control of some device in your network. Then they escalate privileges to become from a local user to an administrator or a domain administrator. Then they hide from your defenses like antivirus and network monitoring. Then they find some way to steal more account names and passwords. Then they hunt through your network to find things that might be worth stealing, like databases and file shares and such. And then they perform lateral movement, hopping from system to system, taking over more and more systems, exploring more and more of your network. And then they start collecting the data they want to steal. They put your machines under persistent command and control so that they can use them. And then they find a way to sneak the stolen data off the network. And then there may be other impacts like destroying systems and such. And so we'll go through this in quite a bit of detail later in the course. This is the modern way of analyzing these advanced persistent threat attacks. And we'll go through quite a lot of details of how these work and what defenses stop them. So what these guys did, they made it to the domain controller, which is typically your goal. The domain controller is the central point of administration and security on a Windows domain. So once you take over the domain controller, you can pretty much do anything. So that's usually where you want to go. So they put keyloggers on here, so it stole key presses, and they got multiple administrator accounts. So now they could run any code on any system they could find. So they've been in here for a long time now. Weeks, perhaps months. Now they've got a lot of backdoors. They've installed multiple different kinds of malware. They've got a lot of points of control on the system. And so they have full control of a system. They tunnel remote desktop protocol traffic in so they can control the Windows machine, as you're going to do in the project. And they've got encrypted command and control traffic. So they have various families of malware they used, installing more than one kind. They use tunneled traffic through DNS queries, which is a common way to sneak data off compromised systems. When you do want to sneak either command and control or exfiltrating data out of an affected system, you have to somehow conceal that traffic and make it look like ordinary traffic so the network monitoring systems won't catch it. So you make it look like an HTTP request or look like a DNS request. And all right, so by the end of March, they had stolen several items of data, usernames and passwords, and the network architecture and information about the systems. And now they could start finding the financial data they want to steal. So they set up a system so they could steal financial data, compress it with our archive files, and then sneak it off. And now they had to find a jump server, which they gained control to move from the internal environment on the left into the restricted financial environment on the right, which was another more secure part of the network where it really handled credit card numbers. Those are the target payment terminals. And this is how credit cards work. There's PCI industry data. The magnetic stripe has 2 tracks, and there's different tracks to steal, but there was a high value track to steal from the credit cards here. And once they were done, they infected a few more machines. It took them another couple of months to make it to the systems that actually processed the cardholder information. And they finally installed RAM scrapers on them here. So you see them down here on the bottom right, the restricted financial environment. They installed RAM scrapers that would steal the credit card numbers from these payment terminals, and then they had to sneak it off through a whole series of servers to find their way off. Yeah, good. I see Mateo's got a DNS exfiltration link there. That's good. Yeah, and I've got some projects about DNS exfiltration that in my Violent Python class. I'm not sure if I'll add it to this class or not, but it's certainly kind of a fun thing. Anyway, so they put some more software on these machines, and they finally put this executable called cardharvest.exe, and this took the RAM from the machine every 15 seconds and stole credit card numbers it found, and efficiently hashed it and made sure not to bother collecting a second copy of data it already had. This is all to make the exfiltrated data small so you can sneak it off. If you try to just sneak a lot of data out of the network, you'll probably get caught. So for 3 months, they now stole millions of cardholder data from all 90 financial systems, and they finally got caught after 10 months in the network. This is why they call these guys the advanced persistent threat. They will infect your network. They will sneak in so carefully that you don't notice it. They will live on your network doing bad things very quietly, and they will be there for a long time before you catch them. Most companies never catch them at all. They get informed by outside observers like the FBI or Brian Krebs, but the smarter companies are often able to eventually notice, but by the time you notice, they've been messing around with you for months. So somebody finally noticed that one of the servers was sending data to a foreign country that it shouldn't be going to. And that showed that there was some kind of compromise in this one system. And that's why I said at the start, the first thing is, how big is the problem? When you find a problem on one machine, it might be just a problem on one machine, or it might be that people have been wandering around your network for months and they're stealing everything, and this is just the one part of it you noticed. So they hired Mandiant. They sent in a team of experts. They started analyzing everything, And they planned, it took them 2 months to stop this attack. So this is really expensive. And of course, I mean, they're stealing vast amounts of data. It's a huge corporation. And so it took them 10 months to get in and steal the data, and it took Mandiant 2 months to kick them out. So we'll talk, the goal of this class is that you understand the techniques used to do that. All right, so the investigation team had to analyze all these systems and understand their financial network and understand how they were stealing the data, and then make a containment plan. One thing you don't do is you don't fix every problem as you find it. All that does is inform the bad guys and they dig in deeper. What you do is you analyze everything without making a change that the bad guys will notice until you understand it all, and then you make one eradication event across the whole organization quickly, so all their controls are broken and all the vulnerabilities they used are closed. So now they're actually gone and they can't come back. And this is like when your house is infested with termites and they put one of those tents over it and they fill the whole house with poison to make sure to kill them all. If you were to just kill a few of them, that wouldn't do any good. You have to really find the nest, find all the places they are and kill them all. So that's what they did. And that was the successful remediation in that big credit card case. And here's a simpler, smaller case. So somebody sent some spear phishing emails to a company. They went to a list of people that went to DEF CON or Black Hat or something, which is something people often do. And then they look at the speakers and they have potential targets who probably have high privileges at their company. So they sent spear phishing emails out, and somebody opened the email with a vulnerable version of Adobe Acrobat. So now they've got a Trojan on one machine. So they got control of one person's laptop, Bob's System 1. Then they performed reconnaissance and they found the VPN software on that one person's machine. So now they could use that person's virtual private network. So once they had that, they had the ability to VPN into anywhere Bob was authorized to go as Bob. So they don't need to keep using Bob's laptop. They can use Bob's credentials and appear to be Bob's laptop. So they connected via the VPN somewhere else, but they sloppily ended the session. Instead of logging out, they closed the window. This caused an event log, and that was noticed by somebody. So this caused them to notice that somebody was logging in as Bob from Texas, even though Bob isn't supposed to be in Texas. So they spent some time here, went through the email servers. They started accessing critical data on a share, and they modified the access control lists of critical data so they get privileges, and they stole some data and uploaded them to an FTP server, and then tried deleting files and running a defrag to hide their tracks, which tells you you're dealing with amateurs here, because defrag does not clean up deleted files. You need something like steganography to do that, the product steganography, not the process, or erasure. But defrag is a common misconception by amateurs that a defrag cleans up deleted files, which it doesn't. So a couple of weeks after they began stealing data, it had a SIEM system like Splunk or something, and they saw the logs. And as you'll see, if you're in the extra credit part of this class, if you do the Splunk boss of the SOC, you'll see how if you have a proper SIEM system, you can totally see who came in, where they went, what else, where they went, what else they did. And so they were able to catch this relatively low-skilled attacker. And they were able to disable the account. He started using another account, so now they got instant response. And so they identified the IP addresses the attacker was using. They identified the malware being used, which was a known malware family. And so they were able to have a comprehensive eradication event in just 2 weeks instead of 2 months, because this was a much simpler attack from a lower skilled attacker that was easier to kick out and keep out. So then they noticed in this case that even though they had changed all passwords, they did not force a password change. As you just saw, the city college system is forcing me to change my password now. If you don't force people to change, they won't all do it, and that doesn't really get them all. So they had to have a second enterprise level password change that disables accounts to force everyone to do it. And so they were eventually able to push that attacker out. All right, and so here's another version of this attack life cycle. This one looks a little bit closer to the Lockheed Martin kill chain. So you got initial compromise, establish a foothold, escalate privileges, internal recon, and then complete mission with lateral movement in the middle. Well, these are all the same kind of things people do, but the attempts to sort of organize it into ways to think about it and ways to plan your defenses vary. None of them are perfect, but that's how we organize our thinking here. So I got some Kahoots about that stuff. Let's try them. Thought I had them open, but anyway, I'll just log in again. All right. There we go. So this is 152, Chapter 1. There we go. All right, so go to kahoot.it and enter this number. These are worth extra credit only. You do not have to do them, but most people find it fun. And if you are one of the top scorers, you will get some extra points. There it is. Good. All right. Needed to find a place to do it. All right. Good. So I can record winners. Good. We got a lot of players. We should have 27. Okay. We got 26 students. So I'll wait a bit. Good. 17. It's a good sign. All right, I'll give it another 10 seconds or so because I think there might be 8 or 9 more people coming. Of course, they could be asleep. We'll see. Aha. All right, 5 more seconds. Oh, okay. Well, I'll give it another few seconds. People are still coming in. We got plenty of time. Okay, I better wait a bit, especially the first time people will be learning the system. All right, 10 more seconds. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I guess we got everybody that's coming. All right, any observable occurrence on a network. What's that? Okay, that's just an event. A server goes down, somebody prints something, you know, that's an event. All right. Which one is a violation of security policy? That's an incident, a security incident. It's not necessarily a breach. There are other kinds of incidents. You could, for example, have someone that alters data without stealing it. For example, ransomware. Ransomware might encrypt your data, but without stealing it. And that's not a breach, but it is a security incident. It violates your security policy. All right. Although lately, the Sodino Cube group is both encrypting your data and stealing it, which is rude. And that makes it a breach in addition to an incident. All right. So which IR team performs damage assessment? All right, that's the investigation team. Yep, like the investigators in police shows. All right. And what team removes the attacker? All right, that's the remediation team. Fair enough. All right, and so I think that's it. I'll have some winners here. Good. Raymond, okay. And Mateo. And Stephen, all right. All right, so I've got those names. You folks get some extra credit. And now I just want to talk a bit about the projects. So if you go here, you go to the home page, you will see that there are projects due. Now the quizzes and the discussions you put in Canvas, and the first discussion you just introduce yourself, and then we'll have a series of topics to post a discussion about. And the quizzes are multiple choice quizzes inside Canvas, but the projects are hands-on projects, and that's mostly what people are here for. They love the hands-on projects. That's what I love them too. And so the way I've done here, I put them all on a separate page because I'm using them for DEF CON and Black Hat and other conferences too. So the first thing you have to do is make a Google Cloud server. So for this, you're going to need a credit card or bank account, and you will not be charged anything, but all you need is a Gmail address, a credit card, and a bank account, and you can make a free Google Cloud server. And I've got some ready to go here. Here's my Google Cloud platform with my Gmail account, and I have a Debian server. And once you create one, which is just a matter of clicking on things on a Google web page, you can then open a command prompt into that server, and what you've got is a headless cloud server you can use, which is wonderful. And I figured this out a couple of years ago. Google is number 3 in the cloud space, and they give a lot of free service away trying to promote their product, which is great for us. So now you've got a Linux command line here. You can do ls and IPA, CIP addresses, and so on. You can now do things. And this server's on the internet. Obviously, I'm controlling it remotely. You can scan systems from this and set up vulnerable systems and attack them from another one. And so you don't need to run local virtual machines. So you do all this, get your server working, and when you get down to the bottom, you install a HWinfo product, which just gives you information about the hardware, and now you can find a flag. This green box covers a word I decided to choose as the flag, and you prove that you've done your homework by turning in this screen showing the flag. And inside the Canvas system, you can type in the flag in the text, and you can upload this image in the project with that number on it. That's how you turn in your homework. You catch a full screen image on your system, and you type in the contents of the flag, and if it's right, you get your points. So that's the first thing you have to do. Now, I should mention, if you cannot make a Google Cloud machine because, for example, you refuse to have anything to do with Google, which I don't recommend, but there are some people like that, or you have no bank account, no credit card, no way to get at one, you can try to run machines locally. I put that way at the bottom. As the alternative cyber ranges, I highly do not recommend this because students have great difficulty running virtual machines on their local system. Now, if you've got virtual machines working with VirtualBox or VMware or VMware Fusion or anything like that, and you like that, you can use it. You can do this whole class on your local virtual system, but most people have great difficulty getting virtual networks working, getting virtual machines working. And so anyway, but there are other cyber ranges you can set up. You're going to need a cyber range. I think we got some Windows in here. Yeah, you're going to need Windows and Linux systems. And so this is by far the best way to do it. And that's why I put this one at the top. Everybody, unless you have a really good reason not to, you should just do it this way. Have a cloud Linux server and a cloud Windows server. Then everything will be easy. But if you want to, you could put them both local, or you could even put one in the cloud and one local and connect them with a VPN. And if you want to set up any of them, it's worth extra credit and it's an alternative way to go. But for most people, they'll have the best success by just putting it all in the cloud and working with it in the cloud. This has the benefit that your machines have plenty of bandwidth, and also they're completely isolated from your system. So you can do attacks, and if you mess them up, you can throw them away. Anyway, Google gives you $300 worth of free service. And if you use it up, you just make a new Gmail account and use the same credit card again and get another $300. I've done it more than 20 times. They really don't care because they're trying to promote their product. Now, of course, anything you put on these servers is liable to be just thrown away. When your trial is over, they will just throw away your stuff. So, of course, don't put anything you care about on there without a local backup. But for what we're doing here, where you're just setting up systems to test software and test attacks and defenses, it's great. Much better than local virtual machines in my. Not only is it better because it's easier for most students and more reliable, but it's better because you're learning a real important skill. You should all get good at managing cloud servers. You should, this is the way everything is. Everybody's putting everything in the cloud, and you should be good at connecting to servers, using servers with command line only interface, networking servers together with software-defined networking and software-defined firewalls between the systems you have to adjust and all that jazz. So it's a good thing to practice. So start doing projects. The first one is just to get your server up, and then you have a whole series more projects that I'll talk about before. So here you set up some Linux servers, and then you set up a Windows server. And then we have a whole lot, most of our time we spend on Windows because that's the main thing that gets attacked, the main thing we have to defend. So we're going to use Splunk and Sysmon and Wireshark and Yara and GUR Rapid Response and Zeek, the product once called Bro. These are very important products that you should have some experience with. And then we'll practice with the attack matrix. I showed you the series of, I think, 11 steps in the attack matrix, and there's actually a mind-boggling grid, which I hated when I first saw it, but I've begun to get used to it. You have the 11 tactics and techniques. Yeah, these are the tactics: initial access, execution, persistence, and these are the techniques. And there are hundreds of them, and you should know what they all are. So I have a series of projects where you just practice wandering through this page, making sure you know all these terms. At first, I thought this was impossible, and then I realized it's not really that hard, and we all need to know all these techniques: browser extensions, modify system processes, execution guardrails, man in the middle, input capture. These are the techniques used by attackers, and we all need to know all these terms. And so anyway, I have a series of projects where you just practice wandering through that grid and all the related pages to learn it all. And then we'll use the Attack Navigator, which is a spreadsheet sort of tool you use to compare advanced persistent threat attackers, and then Caldera, which is one of many modern tools that simulate advanced persistent threat attacks. They execute a whole campaign against your network so you can test your defenses. And for extra credit, you can do Boss of the SOC, which is a Splunk training, which is very good. And I've got more basics down here for extra credit where you learn binary and basic Linux, basic PowerShell, and some more networking projects and so on. Anyway, so there's all these extra credit points. So if you, for example, don't like some of the projects, you can just skip them and do other projects. If you do badly on the quizzes, you can do more extra credit points. If you don't want to do the discussions on the discussion board, you can just do extra credit projects instead. And that's why there's a lot more points here than you need to do. That's why I allocated a bunch of them to be extra. And if you want to give a talk about something or do some other project that's not in my list, that's fine. If you go to external training, I don't know how much of that we can do in this world of the virus, but if you get a chance to go to a SANS course or something, then that's worth extra credit. And I hope to have industry speakers coming up. I haven't got them scheduled yet, but I do have some people that are interested in speaking here, and I'm just have to put them in the schedule. So be aware that the schedule here may change, because if I do get some industry speakers, I'll just shove things out of the way to make room for them. And usually I get 1 or 2 industry speakers in each class. That's why I have some extra days here without a topic assigned. So I think that's it. You should all be getting the book, reading the first couple of chapters, going in Canvas, taking quizzes, posting an introduction, and starting to do your hands-on projects. So let me check and see if I can find the chat board and see if there are questions to answer. Okay. There is not a default VM appliance like we had in other classes. We're just going to use naked systems, a clean Ubuntu system, a clean Debian system, and a clean Windows system. I will host my own Canvas later, but for City College students, I'm just going to use the default City College site because since the whole college is shut, everybody is using it. So I decided to actually comply and use the official system. This class is being recorded, and it'll be right on the homepage here. Someone has no audio and can't see my screen. My goodness. Zoom meeting password for people calling in. If you're calling in on the phone, the only password I know is student one. That's a very good question. Okay, I'll have to look to see how people can connect by the phone. Wait, you have no audio. Oh my goodness. Well, all right, its password is student one. Let me send that. All right, anyway, all right, let's see if anything else happens here. Okay, let me stop the recording and post it up right now. I'm going to leave the Zoom going to answer questions.